It's the year 264 BC. Two giants, Rome and Carthage, are about to clash in a way that will change the whole Mediterranean Sea forever. Rome was a land-based republic. It had disciplined armies and big dreams. 100 years before this, Rome had taken over all of Italy, bringing many different groups of people together under its flag. Its government was good at quickly getting people and supplies ready for war. Carthage, on the other hand, was a sea empire. It was known for its wealth, its strong navy, its trade, and its hired soldiers. Its power reached from North Africa all the way to Spain and Sicily. Because of its Phoenician roots, Carthage was very good at sailing and trading. The city was famous for its strong walls and its skilled sailors, who controlled all the important trade routes. Their fight wasn't just about land, it was a battle between different ways of life and ideas about power. Rome wanted to grow and control the land, while Carthage wanted to rule the seas and trade routes. Both sides knew that winning this war would give them control over the entire Mediterranean. Rome was all about being united, brave in battle, and very disciplined. Its army was known for being tough and learning quickly from its mistakes. The Romans were ready to change and adapt to new challenges, which they showed many times in their past wars. Carthage, though, was about money, the sea, and deals. Its wealth came from trade, and its army was made up of hired soldiers from all over the Mediterranean. The Carthaginians relied on their strong economy and good connections with other countries to become powerful. Sicily, a key island, a tasty morsel between Italy and Africa. Trade routes cross here, and controlling this region promises huge power. The island's rich resources and fertile lands have attracted the attention of many powers for centuries. The Mamertine mercenaries, exiles from Campania, took over Messana, which made powerful Syracuse angry and worried. Their arrival messed up the delicate balance of power on the island, causing a chain reaction among the local states. Finding themselves in danger, the Mamertines asked for help from two great powers, Carthage and Rome, hoping to save themselves from being destroyed. Their diplomatic missions became a crucial moment, shaping the future of the entire region. Carthage reacted first. Its troops took over the city and strengthened their positions right on the coast of Italy, showing their strength and determination. This sent a clear message to everyone involved that Carthage was ready to protect its interests at any cost. For Rome, this was a red line. The presence of Carthage so close to their land was seen as a direct threat. Worry grew in Rome. For the first time, an enemy was so close to the Italian coast. After heated debates, the Senate decided, for the first time in history, the legions would cross the sea. A military expedition began, and the First Punic War broke out, pulling two Mediterranean superpowers into conflict. This event would forever change the balance of power in the region and shape the course of history for decades to come. Rome decided to take a huge risk, challenge Carthage, the ruler of the seas, even though they didn't have their own navy. This decision seemed crazy. Rome was used to fighting on land, but now fate demanded a change. The Romans knew that without control of the sea, they couldn't protect their interests in Sicily and the central Mediterranean. They started gathering information about sea battles, learning tactics and how to build ships from their Greek and Etruscan allies. Their first attempt to cross the sea ended in disaster. Roman ships were captured, and Carthage showed how powerful they were. This was a harsh warning, but the Romans didn't give up. Instead, they started learning from their enemy. They looked at their mistakes and quickly started using new methods to make their navy stronger. In their second try, the Romans showed how determined they were. Their legions landed near Messana, despite the danger and resistance. Their strong will inspired the soldiers and scared their enemies because the Romans were ready to do whatever it took to win. The local mercenaries, seeing how determined the Romans were, switched sides again. The Carthaginian army found themselves trapped and surrendered, which was a big win for Rome. This success made the Romans stronger on the island and opened the way for more operations. In response, Carthage teamed up with Syracuse. Together they attacked Messana, hoping to push the Romans off the island. The alliance of Sicily's two strongest powers created a new threat for Rome, requiring their full effort. Rome's stubbornness led to the fight getting bigger. Now, three powers were involved in the war. The risk paid off, but there was no turning back. A long and bloody war was beginning. From this moment on, the future of Sicily and the entire western Mediterranean would be decided on battlefields and in sea fights. It's 262 BC, Rome and Syracuse team up and Carthage loses a really important friend. This was the first big warning sign for Carthage. Their power in Sicily was starting to slip away. Joining forces with Syracuse gave Rome a huge advantage, letting them use the city's ports and supplies. Carthage had to rethink how they were doing things on the island so they wouldn't lose control of the other cities. The Romans laid siege to Agrigento, Carthage's main fortress on the island. The siege became a real test for both sides. The city was well protected, and its army hoped for quick backup. 5 months of hunger and sickness wore down the people and the army. The Carthaginians realized their troops were weak against long sieges, and the Romans learned patience and how to stick with it. During the blockade, the Romans got better at siege methods, using new engineering ideas. Carthage sent an army with war elephants, hoping to turn things around. They managed to grab a Roman supply depot, but in the big battle, Carthage's hired soldiers couldn't stand up to the Roman legions. The elephants, used for the first time in Sicily, made an impression but couldn't change the outcome of the fight. For Carthage, this was a lesson. Hired troops aren't reliable when things get tough. For Rome, it proved how strong discipline and tough soldiers were. The win boosted the Roman army's spirits and showed that even a strong enemy could be beaten. Agrigento fell, and the Carthaginian army ran away. Rome got its first big win, learning the value of sticking with it and how important allies are. This success was the starting point for Rome's future conquests in Sicily. After Agrigentum fell, Rome took control of most of Sicily, making their position on land much stronger. Roman soldiers marched confidently across the island, taking over towns and villages, but they faced a new challenge. The Carthaginians completely controlled the sea. Their fleet ruled the waters around Sicily. They supplied the cities under siege, launched bold raids on the coast, and stopped the Romans from getting a foothold by the sea. The war was at a standstill. Rome was strong on land, Carthage was strong on water. The Romans realized that victory was impossible without controlling the sea. The Senate made a huge decision to build their own fleet to challenge the Carthaginians in their own territory. In just a few months, the Romans built 100 warships, entering naval combat for the first time in history. The first sea trip was a disaster. The inexperienced fleet was defeated, but the Romans didn't give up. They started working on a secret weapon to change the course of the war. This failure was a big lesson for Rome. They understood that land victories alone weren't enough to succeed. After the defeat, Roman engineers started actively studying Carthaginian ships to learn their technology. It was during this time that the idea of creating the corvus came about, a device that was supposed to make up for the Romans' lack of sea experience. The siege of Agrigentum was the peak of the land war between Rome and Carthage. The Romans showed amazing organization, building 2 sets of defenses around the city, one against the people inside and another against any help coming from outside. Their engineering skills let them create strong defensive lines and control the area well. For several months the Roman legions kept strict discipline, making sure supplies were delivered constantly and troops were rotated. Medical teams and blacksmiths worked tirelessly to keep the army ready for battle. This allowed the Romans to last through a long siege and keep their soldier losses low. Carthage tried to break the siege by sending an army with war elephants. The Carthaginians even managed to capture a Roman supply depot, but they got trapped between 2 Roman lines. Their attempt to free the city led to fierce fights, where both sides lost many people. In the main battle, the elephants caused panic among Rome's allies, but the legions held their ground and stayed calm. The Romans cleverly attacked their enemies from the sides, defeated Carthage's hired soldiers, and forced the enemy to retreat. This battle showed how flexible the Roman army was in its tactics, and how quickly it could adapt to new dangers on the battlefield. After fierce fighting, Agrigentum fell. This became a symbol of Roman strength on land, and clear proof of the Roman army's superiority in open battle and sieges. The victory boosted the morale of Roman troops, and showed Rome's allies its determination to finish the war. However, despite this victory, the war was far from over. Carthage still had strength, and the fight for Sicily was just beginning. Both sides faced new battles, sieges, and challenges ahead that would decide the outcome of the entire war. Rome realized that without a navy, victory wouldn't happen. Facing Carthage's strong navy, the Romans decided to try something new. In just a few months, they built a huge fleet using fast production and strict rules. The crews practiced on land, getting every move just right. But Roman ships weren't as quick as Carthaginian ones. The Romans knew they couldn't win a sea race by the old rules. Then came a game-changing idea: the corvus boarding bridge with an iron spike. This device let them capture enemy ships, turning sea battles into the hand-to-hand fights their soldiers were used to. To build the corvus, Roman engineers came up with new ways to attach and balance it so it wouldn't tip over in a storm. Blacksmiths and carpenters worked tirelessly, making sure the army had all the gear needed for sea battles. Officers ran special drills so the crews could quickly and smoothly use the new weapon in a fight. Now, a fight at sea was a fight on the decks. The legionaries, who were great at close combat, used their skills in this new way. The corvus was ready to fly. With it, the rules of naval warfare changed forever. Rome turned the sea into a battleground for its army, not just its navy. It was 260 BC. The Roman fleet, with its new corvus, sailed into the open sea for the first time, led by Gaius Duilius. This was a huge moment. Before this, the Romans had no experience fighting at sea, and Carthage was thought to be unbeatable on the water. The Romans got ready for this fight very carefully, studying how their enemy fought and making their ships better. They were determined because they knew the war's outcome depended on winning at sea. The Carthaginian admiral, Hannibal Gisco, was sure he'd win easily because his fleet was faster and more experienced than the Romans. But everything changed with a new Roman invention, the heavy boarding bridge called the corvus. This tool helped the Romans make up for not being good at sea battles by turning them into land fights, which they were used to. The Romans got close to the Carthaginian ships, dropped their corvuses, and the fight suddenly turned into a hand-to-hand battle, where the Roman soldiers felt right at home. Thanks to the corvus, the Romans quickly took over enemy ships, using their good training and fighting skills. The Carthaginians, who were used to moving around a lot in sea battles, weren't ready for the tough fighting on the ship decks. Under the strong attack of the Roman soldiers, their lines broke. Many Carthaginian sailors were caught off guard and couldn't fight back well. The battle ended badly for Carthage. Many ships were sunk or captured, and their sailors were taken prisoner. This loss was a big blow to the Carthaginian navy's pride, and made people doubt that it could never be beaten. This win was Rome's first big victory at sea, and changed how the war was going. Now, Rome showed it could fight at sea, and Carthage lost its advantage. From this point on, the Romans slowly took control, and the war's outcome became uncertain. News of the victory quickly spread throughout Italy, making the Romans want to fight more and believe they would win in the end. The victory at Mylae gave Rome a boost. In 256 BC, the Republic decided to take a bold step, to take the war to Carthage itself. This decision was a first for them, as the Romans had never fought so far from Italy before. To pull off this plan, they needed more than just military power. They also needed a huge amount of organization, supplying their troops, moving them around, and making sure the navy and army worked together was a real test for the young Republic. The Romans put together a huge fleet, over 300 ships, to cross the Mediterranean Sea and land their army right in Africa, threatening Carthage's very heart. This plan was risky, but it let Rome take charge. To many people back then, and to Rome's enemies, such a move seemed crazy because sea voyages over such long distances were very dangerous. At sea, the Romans won a tough victory at Cape Ecnomus, one of the biggest naval battles of ancient times. This win opened the way for them to reach the African shores. The battle at Ecnomus was not just a military win, but also a big morale boost for the Romans, proving they could win even in unfamiliar situations. After landing in Africa, the Roman legions started to destroy the areas around Carthage, burning villages and crops. This caused panic among the local people and hurt Carthage's economy. The Romans wanted not only a military win, but also to put psychological pressure on their enemy to break their will to fight. The Romans gave Carthage extremely harsh peace terms, hoping to end the war quickly. However, these demands only made the Carthaginians fight back even harder, as they were ready to fight to the very end. The Carthaginians quickly started looking for allies and strengthening their city's defenses, realizing that the very existence of their state was at stake. Rome's bold plan changed the course of the war, but it led to a long conflict. A turning point was coming, and it happened very soon. These events became a major turning point for both powers, shaping how the First Punic War would continue. However, Rome's African expedition, which was meant to strike at the heart of Carthage, failed. The Romans expected a quick victory, thinking that a threat on their home ground would make the Carthaginians leave Sicily, but reality was much harsher. Carthage, with its strong navy and war elephants, fought back the attack. The decisive battle at Tunis ended in a crushing defeat for the Roman army, which suffered heavy losses. This disaster forced the Senate to quickly call back the remaining troops and temporarily give up on plans to invade Africa. So the war again focused on Sicily, and it became a long, tiring struggle. This battle was a turning point for both empires. This defeat made the Romans completely change their war strategy. They gathered all the money they had and made one last decisive bet. They decided to fight the naval power of Carthage in its own element, in sea battles. We'll talk about the success of this legendary strategy and how the course of the First Punic War changed in our second video. Subscribe to the channel and hit the bell to not miss the cleverest strategies and the fiercest battles that turned the tide of events and started the most bitter and principled conflict in the Mediterranean, which the fathers began and their children finished. See you soon in the next video, friends.